wounded husky drags a soldier on leave to a child in chains, unmasking a dark plot. Will they survive? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for our latest thrilling stories. The pines stood silent, their snow-laden branches a cathedral of calm, until a piercing yelp shattered the stillness, and Nora Blake's head snapped up, her hand instinctively gripping her knife, her eyes locking on a husky charging from the tree line, its silver fur matted with blood, its blue eyes burning with desperation, its teeth sinking into her pant leg, yanking with such force she stumbled, its whines a frantic plea to follow. At 26, a soldier on leave from a grueling deployment, Nora was camped alone in the Alaskan wilderness, her tent half erected, her campfire a frail glow against the encroaching dusk, her mind heavy with the ghosts of her last mission, a covert op that left scars she couldn't outrun. The husky's urgency was a jolt, its bloodied flank and relentless tug bypassing her fatigue, her instincts flaring, danger, not chance. Screamed her training, and she snatched her flashlight, medkit, and the pistol she'd packed for bears, not men. Her boots crunching as she followed the white into the snow-choked forest, its tracks a crimson-streaked lifeline through the blizzard's edge. Nora's pulse thundered, her senses razor-sharp. The wind's howl a warning she felt in her bones, her mind racing with questions. What was this dog fleeing? What was it seeking? Why her? The husky's pace was merciless, its limp a testament to pain ignored, leading her deeper into the pines, where shadows twisted like threats, the snow piling higher, the cold biting through her jacket. Her flashlight beam danced, catching the dog's blood on the ground, a trail that fueled her dread, her combat experience whispering of ambushes, of traps. But the husky's resolve was a Tethys, pulling her through a labyrinth where every snap of a twig was a gunshot in her ears. After 2 hours, the trees parted, revealing a derelict cabin, its splintered boards and boarded windows a mockery of refuge, its sagging roof buried in snow, a faint glow seeping from its cracks, a pulse of life that froze Nora's blood. The husky's growl was a low roar, its body circling the porch, ears pinned, hackles raised, and Nora's beam caught fresh blood, not the dog's, smeared on the steps, her heart slamming as she drew her knife, her pistol ready, her body dropping low, moving like the soldier she'd never stopped being. She nudged the door, its rusted hinges shrieking, and stepped into a dank room, the air thick with rot and terror. Her light landing on a boy, no older than 10, lashed to a chair, his eyes wide with panic, tape sealing his mouth, his muffled sobs a dagger in her gut. Nora's breath caught, her gaze sweeping, a metal box on a table, its lid ajar, spilling papers stamped with a coiled snake emblem, one sheet glaring with her name, Nora Blake, her photo, her unit, her that campsite coordinates, down to the hour she'd pitched her tent. Her stomach lurched, her mind a storm. This was no coincidence. They'd hunted her, lured her here. But why? The boy's eyes flicked to the papers, his fear a mirror of her own. And Nora moved to cut his ropes, her voice a hushed, "Hang on, kid." But the husky's snarl erupted, a feral war cry as boots thudded outside, heavy, deliberate, a hunter's stride. Nora dove, yanking the boy behind a crate, her knife gleaming, her flashlight doused, the dark her shield. A man stormed in, black-clad, a silenced pistol raised, his eyes cold, predatory, his breath visible in the chill. But the husky was a blur, slamming into him, teeth tearing his wrist, the gun spinning across the floor, its clatter drowned by his scream. Nora surged, her blade slashing his thigh, blood spraying, her boot driving into his gut, her fist crashing into his jaw, his body crumpling like a marionette with cut strings. The boy clung to her, sobbing, his weight grounding her, and Nora snatched the papers, shoving them into her jacket, her mind screaming, who knew her leave, her plans, her past? The husky, bloodied but fierce, lunged to the door, its growl a siren of more threats, its blue eyes blazing as it nudged her to move. Nora hoisted the boy, his arms choking her neck, and bolted into the forest. The husky leading, its instincts slicing through the blizzard's chaos, its barks a beacon in the whiteout. Gunshots cracked, bark exploding, bullets grazing her shoulder, a hot sting that fueled her adrenaline, her lungs burning as she ran, the papers a searing weight against her chest, the boy's whimpers a pulse she couldn't fail. The forest was a nightmare, branches clawing, shadows lunging, but the husky's path was true, guiding them to a ravine, its icy walls a fortress as Nora slid down, cradling the boy. The pursuer's shout swallowed by the storm's roar. Her flashlight flickered, catching the boy's face, pale, hauntingly familiar, like a shadow from her unit, a face tied to a mission she'd buried. The snake emblem on the papers burned in her mind, linked to a botched op, a secret she wasn't meant to carry, a betrayal she'd sensed but couldn't name. The husky pressed against her, its warmth a lifeline, its blood-soaked fur a testament to its fight, but its eyes stayed on the ridge, where a flashlight beam swept, too close, too precise, a hunter's mark. Nora's grip tightened on her knife, her pistol heavy in her hand, the boy's trembling fingers locked in hers, her soldier's heart pounding with a truth she couldn't outrun. This cabin was a trap, the papers a lure, and the husky, wounded, relentless, had thrust her into a war tied to her past, one she'd fight with every ounce of strength she had left. Nora Blake huddled in the icy ravine, her breath shallow, the boy's trembling body pressed against hers, his sobs muffled by her jacket as the blizzard raged above, its howl drowning the distant shouts of their pursuers. But her mind was elsewhere, dragged back by the coiled snake emblem on the paper stuffed in her pocket, a symbol that burned like a brand from a mission 6 months ago, a ghost she thought she'd left behind. The husky, its silver fur caked with blood and snow, lay beside her, its blue eyes fixed on the ridge, its low growl a steady pulse, a reminder of the cabin, the trap, the papers that knew too much, her name, her unit, her life. Nora's fingers, numb from the cold, traced the knife at her hip, her soldier's instincts keeping her alert, but her heart was a storm, replaying the moments that led her here to this frozen hell, to a war she didn't start, but couldn't escape. She was 26, a soldier on leave, her body honed by years of combat, her mind scarred by a deployment that ended in whispers and sidelong glances, a mission in a desert outpost that went wrong, not because of bullets, but because of secrets. It was a recon op, covert, high stakes, tasked to secure intel on a rogue militia. But Nora had seen something she wasn't meant to, a crate, stamped with that same coiled snake emblem, loaded onto an unmarked truck, guarded not by enemies, but by men in allied uniforms, their faces hidden, their voices low, speaking of deliveries and assets. Her squad leader, Lieutenant Kessler, a man she'd trusted, caught her watching, his eyes narrowing, his voice sharp as he ordered her to stand down. But Nora's questions lingered, her report filed but buried, her teammates' trust fraying as Kessler spread doubts, painting her as reckless, unreliables, a liability. The mission ended in chaos. An ambush that wasn't supposed to happen, 2 squad mates wounded, and Nora blamed, her instincts questioned, her loyalty probed, though no formal charges stuck. She'd taken leave to clear her head, to escape the whispers, but the husky's eyes, fierce and familiar, pulled her back to a face from that mission, Corporal Elias, her closest friend in the unit, a dog handler whose husky, uncannily like this one, had died in the ambush. Elias's grief a mirror of her own when he was reassigned. His last words to her a warning. Watch your back, Blake. They don't forget. Nora's throat tightened, the boy shivering grounding her, his face pale, haunted, stirring a memory of Elias's son, a photo he'd shown her, a boy about this age, and she wondered if this child was his, if the snake emblem tied them all to that desert night. The papers in her jacket, their weight a constant pressure, held answers she feared, her campsite coordinates, her leave schedule, details only someone inside her unit could know, someone who'd watched her, planned this, used the Husky to lure her to the cabin. Her mind flashed to Kessler, to his cold dismissal, to the men in suits who'd visited the outpost, their briefcases heavy, their eyes avoiding hers, and she realized the militia wasn't the target. The crate, the snake, the assets were, and she'd seen too much, heard too much, become a loose end in a game she didn't understand. The Husky's growl spiked, its body tensing, and Nora's hand snapped to her pistol, her eyes scanning the ravine's rim, where a shadow moved, too human, too deliberate. Before vanishing into the storm, her heart pounded, her training screaming to move. But the boy's weight, his fear, kept her anchored. Her knife now in hand, her flashlight off, the dark her ally. She thought of Elias, of his Husky, of the way he'd talked about his son, his voice breaking, and she wondered if this dog was his, a survivor of that ambush, sent to find her, to drag her into this fight. The papers mentioned other names, other soldiers, their families, and Nora's gut twisted. This wasn't just about her, it was a vendetta, a network targeting those who'd crossed its path, and she'd stumbled into its heart. The boy whimpered, his fingers clutching her sleeve, and Nora whispered, "We're getting out of this." Her voice steady despite the fear gnawing her, her resolve hardening as she bandaged the Husky's wound, its warmth a lifeline, its loyalty a mirror of her own. She replayed the cabin fight, the man's cold eyes, the gun's silenced bark, the Husky's ferocity, and she knew they'd been seconds from death, seconds from becoming another file in that box. The snake emblem was a key, a link to the outpost, to the truck, to the men who had turned her squad against her, and Nora's anger flared, her soldier's heart refusing to break. She checked her pistol, its clip half full, her knife bloodied but sharp, and planned their escape. The ravine a temporary shield but no sanctuary. The Husky's ears pricked, its growl softening, and Nora followed its gaze to the storm's edge, where the pursuers' lights had faded, their shouts lost. But she knew they'd return, knew the organization behind the snake was vast, relentless, its reach explaining the precision of the trap. The boy's face, so like Elias's son, was a call to action, and Nora vowed to protect him, to find answers, to unravel the secret she'd carried since the desert. The Husky nudged her, its nose warm against her hand, and Nora's fear gave way to purpose. Her training a fire that burned through the cold, her past a weapon she'd wield against the shadows hunting her. As the blizzard raged, Nora held the boy close, the Husky vigilant, and she knew this war had just begun, its roots buried in her past, its end nowhere in sight. Nora Blake's flashlight flickered in the icy ravine, its weak beam casting jagged shadows across the boy's pale face, his eyes wide with terror but alive, his small hand gripping hers as the blizzard's roar masked their shallow breaths. The Husky pressed against them, its blood-matted fur warm, its blue eyes scanning the ridge above, where the pursuers' lights had faded but not gone. The papers stuffed in Nora's jacket burned against her chest, their coiled snake emblem a tether to the cabin, to the trap that had nearly killed them, and to a past she couldn't outrun, a botched mission, a secret she wasn't meant to see, a betrayal that now hunted her in this frozen wilderness. At 26, a soldier on leave, Nora was trained to survive, but nothing in her military drills prepared her for this. A child in her arms, a wounded mom as her guide, and an organization that knew her every move. The boy's sobs had quieted, his body trembling under her jacket, and Nora's heart clenched as she peeled the tape from his mouth. Her voice low. "What's your name, kid?" he stammered. Jacob. His voice a whisper, his eyes darting to the husky, his fear easing as the dog nudged his hand, a fleeting comfort in the chaos. Nora's mind flashed to Elias, her squad mate, his photo of a boy named Jacob, his son, and the resemblance was a punch. She was almost certain this was him, the child of a soldier she'd fought beside, lost to a transfer after their mission went wrong. She checked his wrists, raw from ropes, and bandaged them with strips from her med kit, her fingers steady despite the cold gnawing her bones, her pistol heavy at her hip, its half-empty clip a reminder of how close they'd come to death in the cabin. The papers, snatched in the fight, were her only clue, and under the flashlight's dim glow, she scanned them, her pulse spiking, names, photos, dossiers of soldiers, their families, their weaknesses, each marked with the snake emblem, a hit list that included her, Elias, and others from their unit, with Jacob's name scrawled beside a chilling note. Leverage, neutralize Blake. Nora's stomach twisted, the words confirming her worst fear. This wasn't random, it was a vendetta, a network targeting soldiers' families, using children to punish or control, and she was a primary target. Her campsite coordinates proof they'd tracked her leave, her solitude a weapon they'd turned against her. The husky's growl rumbled, its ears pinned, and Nora doused the light, her hand on her knife, her eyes catching a flicker of movement above, a silhouette, too human, retreating into the storm. Jacob whimpered, and Nora pulled him closer, whispering, "We're moving, stay quiet." Her soldier's calm masking the rage boiling inside, the realization that this organization, tied to the snake, was punishing soldiers for secrets they had uncovered, secrets she'd glimpsed in that desert outpost, crates and whispers she wasn't meant to hear. The papers listed other children, other families, and Nora's resolve hardened. She'd get Jacob to safety, find Elias, expose this network. No matter the one, she'd plotted by their escape, the ravine a dead end, the forest a maze. But the husky's instincts were her guide, its nose sniffing a path through the snow, its limping gait a testament to its fight. Nora carried Jacob, his weight slowing her shoulders stinging from the bullet's graze, her jacket torn, but her will unbroken. The storm was their ally, cloaking their tracks, but the pursuers were relentless, their flashlight beams slicing the dark, their shouts carried by the wind, and Nora knew they'd never stop. Not while she held the papers, not while she was alive. She remembered Elias's warning, "They don't forget," and the husky's familiarity, its likeness to his dog, suggested it was no stray, perhaps a survivor of that mission, sent to find her, to pull her into this fight. The papers mentioned a safe house, a coded address in a nearby town, and Nora latched onto it, a beacon in the chaos, a place to regroup, to plan, to keep Jacob alive. She moved, the husky leading, its bark soft but urgent, guiding them through a gully, the snow deepening, the cold seeping into her bones, her pistol ready, her knife bloodied, but sharp. A crack echoed, a branch, a footstep, and Nora dropped low, Jacob's breath hitching, the husky's growl a warning as a beam swept close, a hunter's mark. She held her ground, her training a shield, her anger a fire. Someone in her unit had betrayed her, fed her plans to this organization, and the snake emblem was the key, a link to the outpost, to the men who turned her squad against her. The beam passed, the pursuers diverted, and Nora pushed on, the husky's path true, its loyalty a mirror of her own, its wounds a badge of their shared fight. Jacob's voice broke the silence, a whisper. "My dad's a soldier too." And Nora's heart sank, the confirmation tying him to Elias, to the mission, to the snake, and she vowed to protect him, to find his father, to unravel this conspiracy. The forest thinned, the storm easing, and Nora spotted a frozen stream, a path to the town. But the husky's growl didn't stop, its eyes fixed on the shadows, where a figure lingered, too still, too deliberate, before vanishing. Nora's grip tightened on her pistol, Jacob's hand in hers, the papers a weight she couldn't shed, and she knew safety was a lie, the safe house a gamble. But with the Husky at her side, she'd fight through hell to keep this boy alive, to expose the snake, to face the past that had hunted her to this frozen edge of the world. Nora Blake's boots sank into the deepening snow, her lungs burning as she clutched Jacob tightly, the boy's thin frame shivering against her chest, his arms locked around her neck, his whispered pleas for his father fueling her resolve as she pushed through the Alaskan forest. The blizzards howl a relentless roar that barely masked the crack of gunfire behind them. The Husky led the way, its silver fur streaked with fresh blood, its blue eyes piercing the whiteout, its limping gait unyielding despite the wounds from the cabin fight, its low growls a guide through the maze of pines where shadows twisted like predators. Nora's shoulder throbbed from the bullet's graze, her jacket torn, the papers stuffed inside a searing weight. Their coiled snake emblem a reminder of the trap they'd barely escaped, a cabin rigged with secrets, a hit list with her name, and now a hunt that wouldn't stop. At 26, a soldier on leave, Nora was trained for combat, but this was no battlefield. It was a slaughterhouse, and she was prey, her pistol down to 3 rounds, her knife bloodied, her body screaming for rest she couldn't afford. The ravine had bought them time, its icy walls hiding them from the pursuers' beams, but the storm wasn't enough to shake the hunters, men in black, their radios crackling, their silenced rifles spitting death. Their knowledge of her moves too precise, as if they'd mapped her every step. Jacob's weight slowed her, his sobs a pulse she couldn't ignore, and Nora's mind raced, replaying the paper's details, soldiers' names, families targeted, her campsite coordinates, proof someone in her unit had betrayed her, feeding her plans to this organization, this snake that struck from the shadows. A bullet whizzed past, splintering bark inches from her head, and Nora dove behind a fallen log. Jacob's cry muffled as she pressed him down, the Husky crouching beside them, its growl a warning as flashlight beams sliced the dark. Closer now, their pursuers' shouts carried by the wind. Nora's hands shook as she checked the papers, her flashlight's dim glow revealing a glint, a tiny device, no bigger than a coin, embedded in the folder's spine, its red light blinking, a tracker that explained their relentless pursuit. Her stomach dropped. Rage flaring, she'd carried their leash, led them right to her, and now Jacob's life hung on her next move. She pried the tracker free, its wires snapping, and hurled it into the snow. But the damage was done. The hunters were too close, their beams converging, their footsteps crunching, a net tightening around her. The Husky's ears pinned, its body lunging toward a gap in the trees, and Nora followed, scooping Jacob, her legs pumping, the storm her only shield as bullets grazed the air, one nicking her calf, a hot sting that made her stumble but not fall. The forest was a gauntlet, branches clawing, snow blinding, but the Husky's path was true, leading them to a frozen stream, its surface a slick trap, and Nora slid across, Jacob clinging, her boots cracking ice, her heart pounding as a shout. "There!" echoed behind. She spotted a boulder, its shadow a fleeting refuge, and ducked behind it, her pistol raised, her breath ragged. The Huskies growl a low thunder as 3 men emerged, their rifles sweeping, their faces masked but their intent clear, kill or capture. No mercy. Nora's training kicked in, her aim steady despite the cold numbing her fingers, and she fired. One shot catching a man's shoulder, his grunt swallowed by the storm as he fell, his rifle skidding, the others spun, their beams locking on her bum, but the Husky was a blur, tackling the second man, teeth sinking into his leg, his scream piercing as Nora lunged, her knife slashing the third's arm, blood spraying, her boot driving into his knee, toppling him. The second man kicked free, raising his rifle. But Nora dove, tackling him into the snow, her fist crashing into his jaw, his body going limp. Jacob's scream cut through, "Behind you," and Nora rolled, a fourth man's blade glinting, slashing her sleeve. But the Husky's jaws clamped his wrist, dragging him down, giving Nora time to fire her last two rounds. One grazing his thigh, the other hitting his chest, his body collapsing in a crimson stain. The forest fell silent, the storm swallowing the fight, and Nora's chest heaved, her vision swimming, her calf bleeding, her shoulder screaming. But Jacob was alive, the Husky panting beside her, its wounds fresh but its eyes fierce. She checked the papers, finding a new clue, a coded map, coordinates circling a town 50 miles east, a safe house or another trap, but a lead she couldn't ignore. The tracker's destruction had bought them a window, but the organization's reach was vast, its network stretching beyond these hunters, beyond the snake, into the heart of her unit, her life. Nora tore her sleeve, binding her calf, and helped Jacob stand, his eyes wide but trusting, his small hand in hers, weight she'd die to protect. The Husky nudged her, its nose warm, its growl soft but urgent, and Nora moved, the stream's path their guide, the storm their cloak, the coded map a faint hope. A flashlight beam flickered in the distance, a new hunter or a straggler, and Nora's jaw set, her soldier's heart a fire that burned through pain, fear, the certainty that this organization knew her, wanted her silenced, and wouldn't stop until she was dead. Jacob's voice, barely a whisper, broke her thoughts. They took my dad too. And Nora's resolve hardened, the map's coordinates a promise to find Elias, to save others, to rip the snake from its roots, no matter how deep they ran. Nora Blake's boots crunched on the Posen stream's edge, her breath ragged as she carried Jacob through the Alaskan forest, the boy's shivering form pressed against her, his small hands clutching her torn jacket, his whispered prayers for his father a knife in her heart. The Husky limped ahead, its silver fur caked with blood and snow, its blue eyes cutting through the dawn's gray haze, its growls a faint guide as the blizzard's fury eased, leaving a brittle silence that felt more dangerous than the storm. Nora's shoulder burned from the bullet's graze, her calf throbbed from the gash, her pistol empty, her knife her only weapon. But the coded map in the stolen papers, coordinates to a safe house 50 miles east, was a flicker of hope, a lifeline she clung to despite the weight of the coiled snake emblem, proof the organization hunting them knew her every move. At 26, a soldier on leave, Nora was trained for war, but this was a different beast, a network targeting soldiers' families, using children like Jacob, son of her squad mate Elias, to punish secrets she'd glimpsed in a desert op, secrets that had turned her unit against her, branded her a liability. The fight by the stream had bought them time, the trackers' bodies buried in snow, but Nora knew more would come, their radios silent, but their masters alive. Relentless. The map's promise drove her forward, her legs leaden, Jacob's weight a burden she'd die to bear, the Husky's instincts her only compass in a forest that hid as many threats as it shielded. By midday, they reached a logging road, its ruts iced over, a payphone at its end, a relic Nora hadn't expected, its dial tone a miracle. She fished a crumpled card from her pack. Ryan Teller, a squad mate she'd trusted, his number scrawled with a warning, "For emergencies only." Her fingers shook as she dialed. Jacob huddled against the Husky, the dog's warmth calming his shivers, and Ryan's voice, gruff but steady, answered, "Blake, where the hell are you?" Nora's words were clipped, her training overriding fear, cabin, ambush, papers, Jacob, snake emblem, and Ryan's silence was heavy. His reply a hiss, "Stay put, I'm coming. Don't trust anyone else." The call ended, and Nora's gut twisted, her eyes scanning the road, the Husky's ears pricked, its growl soft but alert. as if it sensed the weight of her choice. They waited, hidden in a ditch, Nora's knife ready, Jacob's eyes wide but trusting, the Husky's presence a steady anchor. Hours later, a pickup truck rumbled into view, its headlights dim, and Ryan stepped out, leaner than she remembered, his face scarred, his eyes haunted but sharp, his rifle slung but not raised. Nora tensed, her hand on her knife, but the Husky's reaction stopped her. It bounded forward, its tail wagging, its whine soft, a recognition that hit Nora like a blow. "That's Elias's dog," Ryan said, his voice low, kneeling to stroke the Husky's bloodied fur. Its blue eyes locked on him, a bond Nora hadn't expected. "He didn't die in the ambush. They took him, trained him, used him to find you." Nora's chest tightened, the pieces clicking. Elias's Husky, a survivor of that desert op, turned into a tool by the snake, its loyalty twisted to lure her to the cabin. Ryan's eyes met hers, his words urgent. The organization, call it Serpent, targets soldiers who saw too much. Elias was one. You are another. They take kids to break us, to control us. He handed her a burner phone, its screen showing a grainy photo, a man in a suit, snake emblem on his cuff, meeting with her unit's commander, Kessler. "He's their local enforcer," Ryan said, "and he's close." Nora's blood ran cold. Kessler's betrayal now clear. His doubts about her a cover for his role in Serpent. The desert crate a key to their power. Ryan's truck was their ticket to a safe house, a cabin he'd secured off-grid. But the road was a gauntlet. Serpent's hunters likely tracking their signal, their reach explaining the cabin's precision, the paper's details. Nora helped Jacob into the truck, the Husky leaping beside him, its growl spiking as a distant engine roared, headlights flickering through the trees. Ryan floored the gal, the truck lurching, and Nora's knife stayed ready, her eyes scanning the rear view, the burner phone buzzing with a text from an unknown number. "You can't hide, Blake!" Her heart pounded, the Husky's barks filling the cab, and Ryan's voice was grim. "They've got eyes everywhere. The enforcer's not just a thug. He's connected, untouchable." The safe house was 30 miles out, a race against time, and Nora's mind churned. The paper's hit list flashing, soldiers, families, Elias, Jacob, herself, all pawns in Serpent's game. Her glimpse of their crate, the spark that lit this fire. The truck hit a rut, skidding, and a black SUV surged from a side road, its windows tinted, its speed predatory. Ryan swerved. Nora braced Jacob. The Husky's teeth bared, and gunfire erupted, bullets pinging the truck's frame, glass shattering. Nora ducked, shielding Jacob, her knife useless against rifles. But Ryan's rifle cracked, one shot blowing the SUV's tire, sending it spinning into a ditch, its crash a fleeting victory. The safe house loomed, a shadowed cabin, its door ajar, and Nora's instincts screamed trap or haven. She had no choice. Ryan led them inside, barricading the door, his eyes meeting hers. "We fight from here. Serpent's coming, and they don't miss twice." The Husky stood guard, its growl a promise, and Nora clutched Jacob, the papers, the phone, her soldier's heart afire against the dark, ready to face the enforcer, to protect this boy, to unravel the snake's secrets, no matter the cost. Nora Blake's breath fogged in the biting air, her boots sinking into fresh snow as she crouched outside a fortified compound, its concrete walls looming through the Alaskan blizzard, its floodlights flickering like dying stars. A stronghold where Serpent, the organization behind the coiled snake emblem, held its grip. Jacob huddled beside her, his small frame wrapped in Ryan's spare jacket, his eyes wide but resolute, while the Husky, its silver fur blood-streaked, growled softly, its blue eyes locked on the compound's gate, its instincts a beacon in the storm. At 26, a soldier on leave, Nora was battered, her shoulder raw from a bullet's graze, her calf bandaged but bleeding, her pistol empty, but the papers in her jacket, the burner phone's photo of Kessler, her unit's traitor, and Ryan's intel fueled her rage. The safe house had been a trap, its door ajar, its silence a lure, and Ryan had stayed behind, his rifle ready, buying them time to strike Serpent's local hub, a warehouse turned fortress where victims were held and answers hid. The map from the cabin papers pointed here, and Nora's heart pounded with a soldier's clarity. Destroy the base, save who she could, find Elias, Jacob's father, and expose Serpent's roots, even if it killed it or her. Ryan's warning echoed, the enforcers untouchable, connected. But Nora had no choice. Serpent knew she had their hit list, their secrets, and they'd hunt her until she was dead. The Husky's growl spiked, its body tensing as a guard's silhouette moved behind the gate, and Nora signaled Jacob to stay low, her knife gleaming, her muscles coiled, her plan reckless but clear. Infiltrate, find the holding cells, burn the place down. She cut through a rusted fence, the Husky slipping ahead, its nose sniffing for threats, its limp a faint echo of its wounds from the cabin and stream fights. The compound was a maze of crates and steel doors, its air thick with diesel and fear, its guards patrolling with rifles, their radios crackling. Nora's training guided her, her movement silent. The Husky's growls a map through the dark, leading her to a loading bay, its door ajar. Voices inside, sharp, commanding. Kessler's. Her blood ran cold, her grip tightening on her knife, Jacob's hand trembling in hers, and she peered through a crack. Seeing Kessler, his uniform replaced by a tactical vest, barking orders to men loading crates, snake emblems stamped on each, just like the desert op she'd glimpsed. A whimper caught her ear, children, caged in a corner, their faces pale and Nora's rage flared, her soldier's heart screaming to act. The Husky's hackles rose, its body lunging as a guard approached, and Nora moved, her knife slashing his throat before he could shout, his body crumpling, blood pooling in the snow. She dragged Jacob inside, the Husky leading to the cells, its bark soft but urgent, and Nora picked the lock, freeing 3 children, their eyes hollow, one whispering, "They took my mom." Nora's throat tightened, the paper's hit list flashing, soldiers' families, pawns in Serpent's game, and she vowed to get them out. Kessler's voice roared, "Intruder!" and gunfire erupted, bullets pinging crates, the compound a chaos of shouts and alarms. Nora pushed the children behind a pallet, her knife her only weapon, the Husky a blur, tackling a guard, teeth sinking into his arm. His rifle clattering, Kessler charged, his pistol raised, his eyes cold, the traitor who'd sold her out, and Nora dove, her blade slashing his leg. But he swung, his fist grazing her jaw, pain exploding. The children screamed, Jacob's cry piercing, and Kessler's knife flashed, aimed at Nora's chest. But the Husky leapt, its jaws clamping his wrist, dragging him down, his blade skittering. Nora scrambled up, her boots slamming Kessler's skull, his body slumping, blood staining the snow. But more guards surged, their rifles spitting, and Nora's vision blurred, her strength fading. She grabbed a flare from a crate, tossing it into a fuel drum, the explosion rocking the compound, flames licking crates, smoke choking the air. The children ran, Nora shielding them, the Husky leading, its barks cutting through the case, guiding them to a side exit as the warehouse burned, its roof groaning. Outside, the blizzard swallowed the flames and Nora collapsed, Jacob and the children beside her, the Husky panting, its wounds fresh but its eyes fierce. She searched Kessler's body, finding a tablet, its screen cracked but alive, showing a file. Serpent hierarchy, local enforcer, Kessler, overseer unknown. Nora's heart sank, The real mastermind was elsewhere, untouchable, and the hit list was only a fragment of their plan. The children's sobs grounded her, their safety her mission, and she memorized the tablet's data, names, bases, a network stretching beyond Alaska, beyond her unit. Sirens wailed, distant but closing, and Nora's hope flickered. Ryan, or Serpent's allies. She led the children into the forest, the Husky's path true, its loyalty a fire against the cold, and Nora's resolve hardened. She'd find Elias, save the others, hunt the overseer. No matter how deep Serpent's roots ran, the tablet's last file flashed, a photo of her marked eliminate, and the Husky's growl echoed, its eyes on the storm, where a shadow moved, too deliberate, too alive. Nora Blake's vision swam as she staggered through the Alaskan forest. Her boots crunching on snow turned gray with ash, the acrid stench of the burning serpent compound lingering in her lungs, her body a map of pain, her shoulder raw from a bullet's graze, her calf bleeding through its makeshift bandage, her ribs bruised from Kessler's fist. Jacob clung to her hand, his small frame trembling but defiant, while the three rescued children trailed close, their eyes hollow. Their whispers of lost parents a weight Nora carried as heavily as the tablet tucked in her jacket, its cracked screen holding Serpent's secrets, a hit list, bases, and the chilling truth that Kessler was a pawn, not the king. The Husky limped beside them, its silver fur matted with blood, its blue eyes scanning the blizzard's edge, its growls a faint pulse, a reminder of the fight that had saved them, its jaws snapping Kessler's wrist, giving Nora the second she needed to end him. At 26, a soldier on leave, Nora was forged in combat. But this war, against an organization that kidnapped soldiers' children, that branded her a target for a desert op she'd glimpsed, was a beast she hadn't trained for. And the tablet's final file, marking her for elimination, was a death sentence she'd outrun, but not escaped. The forest was a gauntlet, the storm's tail lashing, and Nora's heart pounded with the siren's wail. Hope or doom? She couldn't tell. But Ryan, her squad mate, had promised backup. His sacrifice at the safe house a debt she'd never repay. The children's steps faltered, and Nora knelt, her voice steady despite the pain. Keep moving. We're almost there. Her eyes on the Husky, its instincts guiding them to a logging road, its ruts a path to salvation or ambush. Headlights pierced the dusk, a black van screeching to a halt, and Nora's knife flashed, her body shielding the children. But Ryan's voice cut through. Blake, it's me. His face pale, blood seeping through his shirt, his rifle slung but shaking. He'd fought off Serpent's men at the safe house, taken a bullet to the side but lived, his eyes burning with the same fire that had saved her in the desert. Feds are coming, he rasped, helping the children into the van, the Husky leaping beside Jacob, its whine soft, a bond forged in blood. Nora's relief was fleeting, her hand clutching the tablet, its data a bomb, names, accounts. Serpent's network stretching from Alaska to D.C., tied to the crate she'd seen. The snake emblem, a key to a black market trade her unit had stumbled into, a trade Kessler had protected, betraying them all. Ryan's voice was grim. They're not just criminals. They're embedded, military, government, untouchable. He handed her a USB, its files a mirror of the tablets, a backup he'd risked his life to secure, but his eyes flickered to the trees, where shadows moved, too deliberate, too alive. The van roared forward, Nora's knife ready, the children's sobs a pulse, and Ryan's words were a warning. The overseer's out there. Blake. Kessler was his dog, but the master's still free. A gunshot cracked, the van's tire blowing, and Nora's world tilted, the vehicle skidding, crashing into a ditch, glass shattering, Jacob's scream piercing. Ryan shoved her out, his rifle firing, bullets pinging as Serpent's men surged from the forest, their masks glinting, their rifles spitting. Nora shielded the children, her knife slashing a man's arm, blood spraying, the husky tackling another, its teeth tearing flesh. But Ryan took the brunt, his body jerking as bullets hit, his shout, "Go!" a final command as he fell, his blood staining the snow, his USB in Nora's hand, his sacrifice a blade in her heart. She ran, the children behind her, the husky leading, its barks a lifeline through the storm, bullets grazing, one nicking her ear, pain a distant roar as she pushed the children into a gully, their bodies small, fragile, alive. The feds arrived, their sirens a flood, agents storming the road, gunfire fading as Serpent's men scattered, their masks abandoned, their trail cold. Nora collapsed, the children safe, the USB and tablet in her grip, her eyes on Ryan's body, carried by medics. His pulse gone, his warning echoing, the overseer, the master, still free. The feds secured the scene, their questions sharp, but Nora's answers were clipped, her trust thin. The tablet's data handed over, its name sparking raids, arrests, headlines, Serpent's network crippled, bases burned, children reunited. But the overseer's absence was a shadow. The USB's final file a map to a D.C. address, a penthouse, a name redacted, a power beyond Kessler, beyond her unit. Nora's mind churned, the desert op replaying, the crate, the snake, the men in suits, a trade she'd disrupted, a secret that made her a target, Elias a victim, Jacob a pawn. The husky nudged her, its warmth grounding her, its growl a vow, and Nora's resolve hardened. She'd find Elias, protect these children, hunt the overseer. No matter how high he hid, the feds offered escort, but Nora refused. Her soldier's heart afire, the children, her mission, the USB, her weapon, Ryan's death, her fuel. The forest fell silent, the storm spent, but the husky's eyes stayed on the horizon, where a lone figure watched, too still, too gone. And Nora knew this war wasn't over, its roots deep, its end a battle she'd fight with blood and bone. Nora Blake's heart raced as she sprinted through the Alaskan twilight, her boots pounding the snow-crusted path, the husky's urgent barks echoing ahead, its silver fur a fleeting beacon in the gathering dark, its blue eyes locked on a shadow slipping through the pines. A stranger, too swift, too deliberate, clutching something that glinted like a threat. At 26, a soldier hardened by a war she hadn't chosen, Nora gripped her knife, her scars, bullet grazes, blade cuts, and deeper wounds no one saw, burning with the memory of Serpent's traps. The cabin, the compound, the blood of allies like Ryan, who died to break the organization's grip. 6 months had passed since the feds, armed with her USB and tablet, tore through Serpent's network, freeing children like Jacob, exposing traitors like Kessler, torching their bases. But the overseer, the snake's true head, remained a ghost. And now, as the husky's growls turned feral, Nora knew he was close, his shadow haunting her sanctuary. She'd built a community center from the ashes of that fight, a haven for soldiers and their families, a defiance of Serpent's reach. But tonight, with the stranger's intrusion, her haven felt like a battlefield again, and Nora was ready to protect it, no matter the cost. The husky cornered the figure at the center's fence, its teeth bared, and Nora lunged, tackling the man, her knife at his throat, his dropped object, a sealed envelope, stamped with the coiled snake emblem, glinting in the snow, its weight a promise of danger. His eyes, wide with fear, weren't those of a killer but a messenger. Stammering, "They're coming. Blake." Check the mark. Before scrambling away, the husky's snarl chasing him into the dark. Nora tore open the envelope, her pulse hammering. A single sheet, the snake emblem bold, a message scrawled, "The head strikes last. Watch the season." Her blood ran cold, the words a taunt from the overseer, the mastermind who'd evaded every raid, whose DC penthouse was empty, whose name was redacted. A power beyond her reach but not her resolve. The center was her fortress now, its fields alive with rescue boys, its classes teaching veterans to fight, to trust, its kennels led by the Husky, whose loyalty had saved her from the cabin, the stream, the compound. Jacob, Elias's son, was safe, reunited with his father, a soldier freed from a serpent's cells, their gratitude a fire in Nora's chest, joined by the families of other children she'd saved, their lives rebuilt in this sanctuary she'd carved from wilderness. The town hailed her, medals pinned, stories written. Soldier saves dozens, builds haven. But Nora's nights were restless. The tablet's final file a ghost, a D.C. address, a redacted name, a snake still coiled. The center buzzed, its fences reinforced, its cameras live. Nora's team, veterans, survivors, working as one. Their mission to shield, to prepare, to ensure no child faced Jacob's ropes, no soldier Elias's cage. She taught evasion, knife work, her voice calm, her hands steady, her scars a testament to survival, and the Husky patrolled, its presence soothing the broken, its barks a call to courage. But the envelope changed everything. Its snake a reminder that Serpent wasn't dead, its overseer watching. His reach in the center's shadows, a cut wire, a poisoned dog, a stranger's car lingering. Nora rallied Elias, now her right hand, his eyes sharp as she shared the note. The emblem, the threat, and he tightened patrols, their drills relentless. The center a beacon but not untouchable. The feds were useless, their leads dry. The overseer a phantom, but Nora's network grew. Soldiers, families, allies across states, their trust in her ironclad, their goal a wall against Serpent's return. She found hope in the center's rhythm, in Jacob's laughter, in Elias's nod, in the dog's trust, the Husky teaching a pup to play, its tail a rare wag, a joy she'd bled for. But the note stayed with her, taped to her desk, its snake a warning that peace was borrowed. One morning as Nora trained a veteran, the Husky's growl erupted, its body lunging at a delivery van, its driver a stranger whose sleeve slipped, revealing a snake tattoo. His package, empty, save a card, its back stamped with the emblem, dropped as he sped off, a taunt from the overseer. Nora's jaw clenched, her pistol now a constant weight, and she stood on the center's porch. The field's alive. Jacob's voice calling a dog, Elias's hand on her shoulder, a vow unspoken. The war wasn't over, the overseer's shadow vast, but Nora was forged in fire, her network a shield, her purpose a blade. She'd protect this haven, these people, this hope, and with the Husky's growl as her guide, she'd hunt the snake to its heart. No matter how deep it hid, the center was her home, her fight. And as the sun rose, its light caught the Husky's eyes, a promise that light could pierce even the darkest shadows, a future she'd fight for, with every breath she had left. From a Husky's desperate trek to a veteran's fight against kidnappers, Nora's saga enthralled us. Thanks for joining. Like, share, and subscribe for more gripping tales. Hit the bell for notifications and dive into our next adventure.